Welcome. 1. Pre-Columbian period. Before the arrival of the Spanish, the island of Cuba was inhabited by indigenous peoples such as the Taino and Siboney. Their main activities included agriculture, fishing, and simple crafts. Their societies were relatively peaceful and lived in harmony. 2. Spanish colonial rule, 1492 to 1762. In 1492, Christopher Columbus reached Cuba, and the island quickly became a Spanish colony. The indigenous population rapidly declined due to disease and violence. Labor shortages led to the importation of African slaves. Cuba gradually developed an economy based on sugar plantations. During this period, Cuba became one of the major centers of the Atlantic slave trade. 3. 1762 to 1868. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Cuba became one of the world's largest sugar producers. Slavery formed the backbone of the economy. Economic ties with the United States strengthened. Wealthy landowners emerged, and social inequality increased. Ada Ferrer emphasizes that U.S. influence on Cuba began to deepen significantly during this stage. 4. Wars of Independence, 1868 to 1898. In 1868, the 10 Years' War began, aiming to gain independence from Spain. The key figure of this era was José Martí, the symbol of national liberation ideology. In 1895, a new war broke out, but in 1898 the Spanish-American War changed the situation. Spain was defeated. Cuba became formally independent, but fell under U.S. control. 5. U.S. control and limited independence, 1898 to 1959. Richard Gott describes this period as dependent independence. The Platt Amendment gave the U.S. the right to intervene in Cuban affairs. U.S. companies dominated the sugar industry. Political corruption and dictatorships increased. 6. The Cuban Revolution, 1953 to 1959. In 1953, Fidel Castro launched an attack on the Moncada barracks, which failed. Later developments included Exile Mexico, guerrilla warfare with Che Guevara and other revolutionaries. In 1959, Batista fled the country. Backhand index pointing right, the main slogans of the revolution were land reform, social equality, elimination of foreign dependence. 7. Socialist Cuba and the Cold War, 1959 to 1991. After Fidel Castro came to power, banks and industries were nationalized. Cuba aligned with the Soviet Union. Relations with the United States were severed. Key events included the Bay of Pigs invasion, 1961, a failed U.S.-backed attack. The Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. The world came close to nuclear war. During this period, education and healthcare became free. Political freedoms were severely restricted. 8. The collapse of the Soviet Union and crisis, 1991 to 2000. In 1991, the USSR collapsed, and Cuba lost its main supporter. Fuel and food shortages. The declaration of the special period. Opening to tourism and foreign currency. Ada Ferrer describes this era as a survival test for Cuban society. 9. The post-Fidel era, 2006 to 2016. In 2006, Fidel transferred power to his brother Raul Castro. Limited economic reforms. Permission for small private businesses. Partial rapprochement with the U.S. during the Obama administration. 10. Contemporary Cuba, 2016, present. Fidel Castro died in 2016. The younger generation is more open and critical. Economic difficulties, migration, and protests continue. Thanks.